With bridge, it originates from Europe, is a descendant of whist, and it deviates from said game due to the players getting to decide the trump suit with auctioning seeing players complete contracts and the failure to do so causing penalties to be implemented. Vulnerabilities were also introduced to the game, and scoring changes leading to bidding becoming a challenge. Due to changes Harold Sterling Vanderbilt made to the game, along with the widespread distribution of the rules he made, led to contract bridge becoming simply known as bridge. Greetings and welcome to Checkpoint Gaming. With this series of episodes, we'll be going over how to play the game bridge. With bridge, it is a card game that is played between 4 players who are paired off into teams of 2 with the 4 seats labeled north, south, east, and west. With each partnership, they sit across from each other around the table, making one team the north-south pair and the other team the east-west pair. Regarding communication, it is limited to that of the calls and plays, with the players not engaging in any type of communication beyond this. Calls and plays should also be uniform in tone and rate, without special emphasis, inflection, hesitation, or haste. At the start of the game, unless they have already paired off beforehand, partnership pairings are to be done by each player drawing a card from a shuffled deck that has been spread face down across the table. Once drawn, the card is not exposed until all players have drawn, but if a player draws more than a single card, then they're to draw again. When revealed, the 2 players who drew the highest cards are to be one team with the other 2 players being the other team. But if cards possess the same rank, then the suit's rank is to determine who drew the higher card. The player who drew the highest valued card will be the initial dealer and will get to choose their seat. They can consult their partner regarding seating, but once announced, they will have to stick with it with both players sitting across from each other. The other 2 players will occupy the other 2 seats, deciding who will sit where. But if the players paired off beforehand, then the players should decide who the initial dealer is going to be. And with the responsibility of dealing, it is to be handed off to the next player, rotating amongst them unless a redeal is to occur. But if a player is to deal out of turn and it goes unnoticed before the last card has been dealt, then the given deal is to stand with any player who missed out upon their turn to deal is left without redress, with the dealing rotation continuing as if the deal had not skipped any players unless a redeal is to occur. Before starting play, the player found to the dealer's left is to thoroughly shuffle the deck in full view of the other players. And if 2 decks are being used in a game, first, they're to be kept separate, and second, the dealer's partner is to shuffle one deck while the dealer is dealing out cards from the other deck. Once the non-dealt deck is done being shuffled, it's to be placed to the partner's right. On top of this, a deck shouldn't be disturbed until the dealer picks it up, at which point the dealer can choose to shuffle it once again. And no player other than the dealer and the designated individual is to shuffle the deck. Once a deck has been shuffled, before being dealt, the player found to the dealer's right is to cut it by lifting off a minimum of 4 cards from the top of the deck and placing it towards the dealer. From there, the dealer is to take what was the bottom portion of the deck and place it atop of the cards that were just removed. And no player other than the player found to the dealer's right is allowed to cut the deck. If any of the players demand it, a new cut is to occur, but only if it's asked for before the first card is dealt out. And if a reshuffle is to occur, it'll be under one of the following conditions. First is if any player demands a reshuffle before the dealer picks up the deck in order for them to engage in a deal, thus causing the designated player to engage in reshuffling. Second is when any player demands a reshuffle after the dealer has picked up the deck, but before they begin the dealing process. In this case, the dealer will reshuffle. Third, a card is turned face up during the shuffling process where the shuffler will engage in reshuffling. Fourth, a card is turned face up during the cutting process with the dealer reshuffling. And fifth, there is a redeal. With a redeal, it is done to cancel a faulty deal, seeing the same dealer dealing again unless they dealt out of turn. If using multiple decks, the same deck that was used in the misdeal is to be used again unless it had to have been replaced. The cards are to be shuffled and a new cut is to occur. And for a redeal to occur, it occurs under one of the following conditions. A card was turned face up during the dealing process, or it is found face up within the deck. The cards haven't been dealt correctly, a player dealt out of turn, is dealing from a deck that hasn't been shuffled or cut, or any player has demanded a redeal. A redeal is also able to occur if it is discovered that a player picked up a different player's hand and looked at least one of the cards. A deck doesn't conform to the predetermined rules. A player picked up too many or too few cards, or when 2 or more players from opposing teams allowed any of their cards to be mixed together. With 5 of the cards found in each deck, they're known as the honor cards, and they consist of the ace, king, queen, jack, and 10. With the remaining cards, they're known as the spot cards, and they consist of the 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and 2. Regarding card ranks, going from strongest to weakest, they are Ace, King, Queen, Jack, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and 2. At the start of the game, each player receives 13 cards face down, with each player keeping these cards to themselves. The players are also not to look at the face of the cards they receive until the dealer has dealt out the entire deck. Once receiving their cards, each player is to arrange them according to their suit and separating them by color. So the suits are to be red, black, or black, red. Once organized by suit, the cards are to be arranged from highest to lowest within their suit, with the ace always being high, and we don't mean the Cheech and Chong style of high. And when the cards are being dealt, it's done one at a time in a clockwise direction, starting with the player found to the dealer's left until the entire deck has been dealt. If the dealer deals out 2 cards simultaneously or deals consecutively to the same player, they're able to rectify the error provided that it's done immediately and to the satisfaction of the other players. If a player is in possession of too few cards and a request for a redeal isn't made, the deal is to stand. With the game's objective, it is to take a certain number of tricks, with a trick consisting of the cards that are played during a round with each player playing a single card from their hand during said round. Each trick is led by one player choosing which card they wish to play, with all other players having to follow suit. With leading, it is the first card that is to be played to a trick, and an opening lead being the card played to the first trick while following suit, or to follow suit, is the playing of a card that belongs to the same suit as the lead card. When it comes to full direction of play, it is done in a clockwise direction, and players will have to follow suit whenever possible. But if a player can't follow suit, then the player is void in said suit, which allows them to play any card they wish from their hand, including a trump card. It is just recommended that a player doesn't play a trump card if their partner is going to win a trick. With trump cards, they belong to the trump suit, which is determined during the bidding process, and they will take any trick they're played in, regardless if the opposing pair played the high card that is associated with the lead card. If a player plays a trump card, an opponent can also play a trump card that is of a higher value to take the trick, assuming that the opposing player is also void in the lead suit. But if the opponent can't take the trick in this manner, then it might be a good idea for them to not play a trump card. If no trump card is played, then the trick is won by the player who played the highest card of the lead suit. But if a trump card is played, then the highest played trump card wins the trick. The winner of the trick is to take the cards, place them face down in front of them, and becomes the first player for the next trick. They will then decide which card is going to be the lead card, with all other players following suit if they're able to do so. Once played, a card can only be withdrawn under the following conditions. First is to comply with a penalty, correct an illegal play, or correct a simultaneous play of 2 or more cards. If a defender's card is exposed and then withdrawn in this manner, then it will become a penalty card. Second is a change in designation. Third is when an opposing player changes a play with the substitution. And fourth is to correct a play after an opposing player has engaged in misinformation. If a call is substituted, it occurs on one of the following conditions: the lowest sufficient bid of the same denomination, causing the auction to proceed normally as if the irregularity didn't occur, or any other sufficient bid or pass will see the offender's partner having to pass whenever it is their turn to call and lead. Penalties are to be applied if the player becomes a defender. If the offending player tries to substitute a double or redouble, it is cancelled, having to pass on that turn with the offense being subject to a penalty. With the performing of an opening lead, it is done by the defender found to the left of the declarer, causing the declarer to be the last player to play a card of the first trick. On top of this, the partner of the declarer is known as the dummy and is to place their entire hand face up upon the table. They're also to sort their cards so that they're pointing towards the declarer, and the suits arranged so that the trump suit is found to the right of the hand. With that said, the dummy player can't choose which card they wish to play, having to play the card their partner wants played. So the declarer essentially plays both hands. With that said, it is to the advantage of the declarer to not only know, but to see all cards that are found on their side. With the nature of the defender and declarer, they will be addressed in the following episode. When a team wins a trick, it is done when the highest ranked card is played. If no trump card is played, then the player that played the highest ranked card of the lead suit will take the trick. But if a trump card is played, then the player who played the highest ranked trump card will take the trick. From there, the trick is placed in front of the winning player. When claiming multiple tricks, they're to be oriented in such a way where it is easy to distinguish between said tricks as well as to determine how many tricks each team has won. With the winning of the initial trick, it is to be placed with the short edges facing the player and their partner. With the winning of the second trick, it is to be placed with the long edges facing the player and their partner. Once all 13 tricks have been performed, the players who won the tricks will have a row of cards in front of them. Except for the dummy player, a player is able to inspect a given trick and inquire about what card each player played until a member of the inspector's team leads or plays to the following trick. Once this occurs, when play ceases, quitted tricks can only be inspected in order to account for any missing or surplus cards. Once play has come to a stop, the tricks and unplayed cards are able to be inspected in order to settle an allegation regarding a revoke of honors or how many tricks that have either been won or lost. If an allegation has been made and a player on one team makes verification of said allegation impossible by either mixing or merging the tricks together, then the issue is to be ruled in favor of the other team. That's what you get for tampering with information. When it comes to the dummy player and information, they're able to share it when it comes to facts and rules of the game, but they're not allowed to initiate the discussion. And if they haven't forfeited their rights, they can also ask the declarer, but not the defender, when they have failed to follow suit and whether they have a card of the suit that was led. The dummy can also try and prevent any irregularities from occurring from the declarer. They can also draw attention to any irregularities, but only after the play has been concluded. The dummy player can also not participate in play unless it comes to the playing of a card from their hand as dictated by the declarer, or to make a comment upon bidding, play, or score of the current deal. If the dummy player does engage in communication beyond what was just listed, they're to be penalized. The dummy player also can't draw attention to any irregularities once they have occurred. The dummy player will also forfeit their rights as described earlier if they exchange hands with the declarer, leaves their seat to watch the declarer play, or, on their own initiative, looks at a card in the hand of either defender. But if the dummy player engages in any of the aforementioned actions and they are the first to draw attention to the defender's irregularity, then the declarer is unable to enforce any penalty for the offense. If the dummy player warns the declarer that they shouldn't lead from the wrong hand, then it will see either defender having the option to choose the hand from which the declarer is to lead from. And if the dummy player is the first to ask the declarer if a play made from the declarer's hand represents a revoke, then the declarer is to substitute a correct card if the play was a revoke. And if a penalty is to be applied, then one trick is to be transferred to the defenders. If the declarer instructs the playing of a card from the dummy hand but doesn't specify exactly what card is to be played, such as only stating the suit or rank, then the dummy player is to wait until the declarer completes their declaration before playing a card. Sounds like a good reason to share all the needed information in a conversation instead of only sharing some of it. When a declarer exposes a card, they're not subject to a penalty with any card that belongs to a declarer or the dummy player ever becoming a penalty. The declarer also isn't required to play any card that they just so happened to accidentally drop. Whenever the declarer exposes any of their cards at any other time, it can be deemed as to them making a claim or concession of a trick. Whenever a defender places one of their cards face up on the table, shows the card so that their partner can see its face, or name a card found in their hand before it is their turn to play, then each such card will become a penalty card. If a defender's card is prematurely exposed, then it counts as a penalty card, causing it to be left face up upon the table until it is played, or an alternate penalty card has been selected. If a single card that is valued below that of an honor and it gets inadvertently exposed, then it becomes a minor penalty card. But when a penalty card is that of an honor rank, or a card is exposed through deliberate play, it will become a major penalty card. And when one of the defenders possesses 2 or more penalty cards, then all such cards will become major penalty cards. Whenever a defender possesses a minor penalty card, they can't play any other card that is of the same suit and possesses a value that is less than the rank of an honor until they have played the penalty card. But, with that said, they are able to play an honor card from their hand instead of playing the minor penalty card. Although there are no further penalties beyond this, the partner of the offending player can't base any subsequent play based upon the information that was obtained from seeing the penalty card. When a defender possesses a major penalty card, it will have to be played at the first chance it is legal for them to do so. If the defender possesses 2 or more penalty cards that are able to be legally played, then the declarer can designate which one is to be played. When it comes to playing a card, the player with a penalty card will have to follow suit or comply with a lead or play penalty first before they're able to play a penalty card. But with that said, the penalty card will have to still be left face up upon the table and played at the next legal opportunity. When a defender possesses the lead while their partner holds a major penalty card, then the declarer can choose to impose a lead penalty at this time. They can also require the defender to lead with the suit of the penalty card or prohibit said defender from leading within that suit. A prohibition is able to continue for as long as they retain the lead. If the declarer does impose a lead penalty, then the penalty card is to be immediately picked up. But if the declarer doesn't impose a lead penalty, then the defender is able to lead with any card with the penalty card remaining as such. With that said, the defender can't lead until the declarer indicates their choice. If a defender possesses 2 or more penalty cards that are of the same suit, and the declarer either requires or prohibits the lead to be of that suit, then the defender can pick up every penalty card found in said suit, and they can make any legal play for the trick. But if a defender possesses penalty cards in more than a single suit, then the declarer can prohibit the defender's partner from leading in either suit, or to require them to lead in one of these suits. But in either case, the defender can pick up all of their penalty cards found in every suit that has been declared or prohibited and then make any legal play to the trick. When a defender is required to play a penalty card but plays another card instead, then they will have to leave the illegally played card face up within the trick. From there, the declarer can accept the defender's lead or continue the play if they have played from their or the dummy's hand, while the unplayed penalty card remains as a penalty card. With that said, the declarer can require the defender to substitute the penalty card for the card that was illegally played. In this case, the illegally played card will become a major penalty card. With defective tricks, they're to be inspected, face up, until it is rectified in the following manner. The offender plays a legal card to the trick if they are yet to play a card. The offender who plays more than one card to the trick is to withdraw all excess cards they played while leaving a card that they're legally able to play, and the non-offending team can withdraw any cards they played after the irregularity occurred, and before attention was brought to it without being penalized. But the offending team is unable to withdraw cards that represent legal plays with any cards that they do withdraw, having the possibility of becoming penalty cards. After the responsible player has played a card in a subsequent trick, the ownership of the defective trick is unable to be changed, with the offender who failed to play in the defective trick having to add a card to the subsequent trick, playing a card that they could have legally played if it's possible for them to do so. If the offender played more than a single card to a defective trick, then they will withdraw all cards they played except for one, leaving the highest card they can legally play in the trick. From there, the withdrawn card can become a penalty card, with said card being deemed to have continuously belonged to the offender's hand with failure to play it in an earlier trick, possibly counting as a revoke. With the claiming of a trick, if it's done by the wrong team and it is demanded to do so, then the trick is to be awarded to the team that actually won it. And if a trick is in possession of a card count other than 4, then it is considered to be defective. If it's determined that a player possesses an incorrect number of cards when compared to that of the other players, then the previous trick is to be examined in a face-down manner. And if a defective trick is found, then the player that possesses the incorrect number of cards is held responsible. With a card that is missing and is found elsewhere and not played in a previous trick, then it is deemed to have continuously belonged to the player with a deficient hand, with said player restoring it to their hand. It is also able to become a penalty card, with failure to play it having the possibility of it counting as a revoke. When a player possesses too many cards and a redeal isn't required, then the deal is to stand as correct. And if the offender didn't play to a trick, then the preceding rules regarding the matter is to be implemented. If an offending player picks up a surplus card from either the previous trick, dummy hand, the other pack, or from somewhere else, then the surplus card is to be restored to its proper place. If the surplus card is discovered in the offender's hand, then no penalty is to occur. But if the surplus card has been led, played in the current trick, or played in a previous trick, then the offending player will have to substitute for said card from their hand that they are able to legally play to said trick. And if it's possible for them to do so, a card that belongs to the same suit as the surplus card is to be played. Although the offending team is not able to win a trick that they have lost, it can lose a trick that it won. If attention is brought to the offense before the lead of the following trick, either member of the non-offending team can withdraw a card that they played from the trick to the offense and substitute it with any legal play without suffering a penalty. It is possible for the declarer to announce that they claim or concede one or more of the remaining tricks. This also extends to them suggesting that play be either curtailed or faces their hand. But if they're in doubt of the number of tricks they can win or lose, then the declarer shouldn't make said claim or concession. When the declarer makes a claim or concession, play is to come to a temporary stop with the declarer having to place their hand face up upon the table and make a statement pertaining to their plan of play, which includes the order by which they plan of playing their remaining cards. If the defending team agrees to either the claim or concession, then it is allowed with the deal being scored accordingly. If either defender permits any of the declarer's remaining cards to become mixed with another player's cards, then the claim or concession will have to be allowed. But if this doesn't occur, and either defender disputes the claim or concession, then it isn't allowed, causing play to continue. At any point during play, it is possible for either member of the defending team to place their hand face up for inspection by their partner, with the declarer not being able to impose a penalty for any irregularities that have been made by the defender, who has their hand placed face up for this purpose. The objective of any subsequent play is to obtain a result that is equitable as possible for both teams, with any doubtful point having to be resolved favoring the defenders. The declarer also can't make any play that is inconsistent with the statement they made at any point during their claim or concession. But if they fail to do this, then they are to face restrictions when it comes to them engaging in play. First, if the declarer hasn't made relevant statements, they can't finesse in any suit unless an opposing play fails to follow that given suit before the claim or concession was made, or it would subsequently fail to follow in that given suit through any given sequence of plays. Second, if the declarer was unaware that a trump card remained in a defender's hand when they made the claim or concession, then either defender is able to require the declarer to draw or not draw the outstanding trump. And third, if the declarer didn't mention any unusual plans of play during their statement, they can adopt only a routine line of play. If the declarer tries to make a prohibited play, then either defender can either accept the play or require the declarer to withdraw the card they played and substitute it with another card that conforms to the declarer's obligations, provided that neither defender has engaged in play. A defender is able to make a concession when they agree to the declarer's claim or when they announce that they will lose one or more of the remaining tricks. But to make a claim, the defender will announce that they will win one or more of the remaining tricks, or when they show some or all of their cards for this purpose. If the claim only pertains to an uncompleted trick that is currently in progress, then play is to proceed as normal, with cards that are exposed or otherwise revealed by the defender when they make their claim won't count as penalty cards, although rules pertaining to the unauthorized sharing of information can apply to their partner. But if the claim pertains to subsequent tricks, then play is temporarily suspended, where the claimer will have to place and leave their hand face up upon the table and make a statement pertaining to their plan of play that pertains to their defense play. If the declarer agrees to the claim, then it is allowed with the deal being scored accordingly. But if the declarer disputes the claim, then the defenders will have to continue play with the claimer's hand remaining face up upon the table, with these cards not becoming penalty cards. With that said, the declarer can prohibit the claimer's partner from performing any play that can be suggested to them through observing the faced cards. It is also possible for a concession to be withdrawn, which can occur under one of the following conditions. First is if a player concedes a trick their side has actually won, if the declarer concedes defeat of a contract they have already fulfilled, or if a defender concedes the fulfillment of a contract that their side has already defeated. Second is if a trick has been conceded can't be lost through any probable means of play using the remaining cards, along with attention being drawn to the fact before the cards have been mixed together. And third is if a defender concedes one or more tricks but their partner immediately objects to the concession. But with that said, it is possible for penalties to occur in this situation pertaining to that of unauthorized sharing of information between teammates. So with that said, that is what you need to know about gameplay for Bridge. With that taken care of, we can start talking about bidding and scoring. If you like this episode, feel free to give it a like. And if you want to stay up to date on any future episodes we upload, go ahead and subscribe. You can also support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/checkpointgaming. See you in the next episode, and happy gaming.